a generation later. I mean, their parents were here and they were born here. And we're going to hear a little bit about it. So this is going to be a story of immigration, transition, faith, family, achievement, and becoming Americans. Do you want to go sit back at your table? Let's hear it for George Hanna. You know, George has given well over 50 years of his life to the reunion, so I imagine we should cut him just a little bit of slack. All right. Okay, so in preparation for today, I sent a note out to all of these people and asked them to think about these things. Why did your folks come here? Where did they settle and why? What did they do better in their lives here than their predecessors? What obstacles did they overcome? How did they go about becoming Americans while upholding their heritage? What obstacles have they overcome along the way? And what does the Kfeirian Reunion mean to them? Now, everybody's got a great story, but I'd like to start with Abe Bassett. He's been very central in us staying true to our roots and remembering things. But Abe, you've sent me several emails, and maybe you can get us started with the actual migration of Arabs into this country. Would you mind?
The migration of Kfeirians out of Kfeir started, as far as I can tell, in 1860 as a result of the Druze-Christian wars. Wars that destroyed over 300 churches, killed up to 25,000 people, many of them Christians. So seeking peace and religious freedom was one of the early reasons that Kfeirians left. And they left Kfeir to go to Beirut and Damascus, Aleppo, other countries. Now, as far as I can tell, the first Kfeirian to come to America probably was in 1890. And that's a guess on my part, because I have to assume that somebody came to America, settled down, liked what they saw, came back and told the villagers what had happened. And then it took probably a year or so for Kfeirians to say, we're going to go to America. And in 1895, there was a group of about 45 Kfeirians who left together to come to America. Some of those people were named Tweel, Hanna, Mickel, and other familiar names. Most of them came to Toledo, and some of them went to Fort Wayne, Indiana, which was also a center for Kfeirian migration, at least at the time. And then, after they settled, people in Kfeir wanted to join them, and they did. Many of them came with the idea that they're going to be there for a couple of years, earn a lot of money, and come back. Many of them went there as, oh, by the way, the average age of those 45 Kfeirians who came in 1895 was about 24. The oldest was, I think, 46, and there were some teenagers that were there, including my aunt, who married George Kerbaway. And I got to tell you, just one funny story. Minnie Kerbaway, my first cousin, had this story that when the boat landed in New York, Mahiba ran away from Assad, her father, followed by George Kerbaway, to get married. Well, that actually was a story that wasn't true, because they got married months later, but they wanted to get married. My grandfather came, and he wanted to be a peddler, but he brought his oldest daughter along. She was only 15 at the time, probably because she would be learning English a lot better. And my mother says they didn't. My mother remembers she was only 4 years old in 1895 when the people came as a group, and she says it was a big deal. and it was upsetting. And I think in years later, they remembered this large group of Kfeirians leaving and coming to America, and it was upsetting. And then one last thing, I know this in 1920, in the early 20s, there were so many people who were leaving Kfeir that the village fathers started recording on sheets of paper who left, where they went to, who their father was, who their mother was. So it was a nice historical records that they left there in the 20s, and I believe the Kfeirian Reunion has gotten a hold of those records. They are in Arabic, but they're not entirely accurate. It shows how much people left Kfeir and how hard it was on the people who were in. Well, I think I've taken more time than I should take, so thank you.
Well, we may come back to you. Thank you, Abe. Abe has been very helpful in getting us interested in archiving our history. And you may know, or may not, that Marshall is an archive for the Kfeirian Reunion. And if you have things that you think are memorabilia or family pictures or lists that we should have, please get them to Denise and she will scan them and we will send them to Marshall. Let's thank Abe one more time for his contribution. Now, Abe, your family settled in what area?
Well, Toledo, Michigan. My grandfather became a farmer in Blissfield, Michigan, just outside of Blissfield. My dad was a peddler, and he traveled around not the United States, but the eastern part to West Virginia. So West Virginia became very important, probably because it was a mountain state, a lot like...
Looked familiar, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it looked very familiar.
Yeah, that's a question we've all had. Why in the world did they settle in West Virginia in the region? Coal mines, work, and whether you were working or the railroad or you were selling. So if you are from the region that Abe has talked about, the Michigan area, Toledo area, would you stand just for a minute? Let's see, because you're part of a migration path. Thank you. Now we've got some people over here that are new to us, but this is their first time being with us, and